What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video from Byerly Studios. This is the number 3 video in this series where I'm sculpting an alien egg tumbler. In video 1 and 2, I hand sculpted the actual tumbler itself with the armature arms and legs, and then I detail painted that in video 2. This is video 3 where I'm going to begin sculpting out the alien egg topper. Now this is more so a diorama piece, so if you wanted to set this on your shelf as a showpiece, you could put this on top and it really brings it to life. This is where the alien is going to be coming out of the top of the cup. So because this is independent of the twist lid that would go on it naturally, I need to build up the layers from scratch. So I created a small disc of clay, baked it, and then I apply layers on top of that. So that it's not sinking into the cup. So right now I'm just building up those layers, and then once I get those layers built up and rolled over the edges the way that I want, at that point I'll begin the actual sculpt work. So go ahead and sit back, relax, and watch me make this happen. Alright, so now I've got the layers built up that I need, I'm going to go ahead and start removing clay and shaping out where I want this alien to be. So I want it to have a concaved spine that goes all the way down the length of the alien. It's going to have small mouth at the very front with some pincers. And any of this clay that I'm removing, I'm actually adding it to the tail in the back. So I'm going to build up that tail quite a bit because I don't want it to be just, minuscule and not visible. So I'll reuse this clay that I'm removing, and I'm going to go ahead and make the legs that go around the outsides. So there's going to be a total of 8. There's going to be 2 on each side of the rear, and then 2 on each side of the front. The ones on the front are going to look like they're going into the epoxy and then popping back out, and that's where you see those legs in the front. The ones in the back, just like the tail, are only going to be visible, and they look like they're going inside the cup. So it's like the alien is still inside the cup. It's not fully out yet, right? It's giving you that hint that, hey, this thing is coming out of this egg. So I'm patting down the edges of the alien, because you got to remember that I want the epoxy to go around the entire thing, and the alien to be surfacing from it. So there will be a little bit of epoxy on the tail, quite a bit of epoxy around it, and around the legs. So I'm removing that clay where I want that alien to be like emerging from that epoxy. And I'm using that negative clay to build out other areas. So once I get that kind of built out the way I want, I'm going to go ahead and start blending those in. And then once I blend them in, I may build areas in certain places, and then I'll try to start adding a little bit of texture until I get the desired effect. So I wanted to use some of the same techniques that I used on the actual alien cup itself below. So I went ahead and popped some holes in the clay, and then I'll shadow and shade these so that they truly blend and look like the egg goes with the alien. So I'm applying texture a little bit at a time until I get the desired effect that I want, adding some striations here and there. A lot of this will get covered up by epoxy, I'll be honest. But it's still kind of fun just get a mind's eye of what it's going to look like when the alien's coming out. Alright, so the next step, I wanted to get an idea how I wanted the eyes to be. I wanted to have kind of an alien crab spider look to it. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with my larger ballpoint tool here. And I'm going to go ahead and bore the eye sockets in. I'm going to do different sizes while I'm doing this process just to give variation. I think it looks kind of cool instead of them just all being the same size. So I'm just going to have fun tinkering with this, and then I'll actually make some round eyeballs to go in these that will be painted a solid black color with white highlights. So I think those eyes look pretty cool just even by themselves before the eyes are actually put in the sockets. But we'll move on to other sections. So now I'm going to go ahead and build up some material on the tail. So the tail on the tumbler below is kind of a socketed tail look. It's kind of like an exoskeleton look to it. And I'm going to follow through with the same kind of theme at the top. So I'm going to build up that layer where that first socket comes out of the back of the tail, and then I'm going to build up the material so it really looks like it's curving inward. I want that tail to be visible. I don't want it to be just kind of minuscule and something you just don't look at all. So that's why it kind of wraps downward in a smooth motion down the back of that cup where there are no armature legs. And then I'll kind of texture that a little bit, and then when I shade that and then I put the epoxy around it, it really sinks it in place and it really puts it in perspective. Alright, Alright, so I didn't want the top of the tumbler just to be all just striations and smooth skin. I wanted some varying textures. So I went ahead and just rolled out some small clay nodes that I'm going to blend in one at a time. And these mixed along with the ports at the top do add a little bit of differentiation. I'm also going to build out around the eyes quite a bit so that it kind of frames them in and brings them a little bit more to life and more dimension to them. Alright, so one of the last steps in this video is to make the eyes for the eye sockets. I'm going to just roll out clay in different sizes that are going to sink into those holes that I had bored into the front of the alien. I'm going to make those a little bit loose so that I can put a wash in around the eye so that the eye is just not kind of really just mingled in the body. I want them to kind of stand out a little bit, and the clay will bake in there anyway, so I'm not really worried about it being loose or anything like that. And then I'll epoxy over everything when I get completely done. It really is going to look good when I apply that black to the eyes themselves. And here I am making a mistake. I actually made a mistake on the eyes because I stabbed them. I ended up doing it a little bit different. I just decided to just lay them in by hand, and that actually gave me a better effect than when I was trying to put them in with a tool. So, lessons learned. Alright everybody, so coming down to the nitty gritty on this part of the build, I'm getting those last striations in on the legs and around the edges of the body. Most of the texture is in where I want it to be. The back is kind of got some texture to it. The legs and the tail are appearing and disappearing where they need to. So that way when I do come in with that epoxy drip, it kind of just hugs it and it kind of looks very natural. So the next step is to go ahead and bake this bad boy, and then it will lock all of these details into place, and then the next stage will be painting and epoxy work. So that will be a separate video in itself. If you haven't had the opportunity to go see my video 1 and 2 on this alien egg sculpted tumbler, please do so. They are a lot longer format than this video. The other ones run about 30 to 40 minutes long. This one is about 20 minutes long, and the next video, which will be me hand detailing the paints onto this thing and the epoxy work, will be the next video, which will also probably be about 20 minutes. I'd like to thank everybody for watching this video. Please stay tuned for the other one that's coming out and check out some of my other videos. See you later.